I'll just start off by saying, after going back and looking at the tape, I think it was the most complete game that we've played up to this point. I thought we did some really good things, both offensively, defensively, and the kicking game.
Matt, I really think we should have listened to Alvin Kamara more last week. I mean, wow, what a dominating win by the Saints to shut out the Raiders, and they're really in the thick of things in the NFC South. Welcome into our Black and Gold Report. I'm Corey Rholdon, joined by ESPN Radio's Matt Musso. And Matt, what are your opening thoughts on the Saints' big-time win over the Raiders?
That was more like it, yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what we expected going into the season with this defense. Now, we were very negative, very down on them last week, and rightfully so. They had not played well. Let's not get it twisted. And I don't think anybody on this set right now, Corey, could have predicted that's what we would have seen from them. But we did. Last week you asked, is the season over? I'll say this now. You play defense like that, it's much easier to find wins remaining on this schedule. But you have to carry it forward now going against the Ravens.
Oh, 100% agree. And also, my biggest point, Alvin Kamara backed up what he said last week, and I loved how the Saints used him. It wasn't just straight handoffs. It was using him in the passing game, running choice routes. In the red zone, he had 0 touchdowns the entire season. Big focal point. Look at him right here in the backfield, running a choice route. He had 9 receptions for 96 yards, and I think that led to 3 touchdowns. Now the Saints will try to repeat their success on Monday Night Football against the Ravens. Matt, I just want your quick thoughts real quick on that matchup.
The Ravens, they look a lot better right now than they did at this point last year, and a lot of that, Corey, I think has to do with their health. We know they're a very talented team. They just suffered injuries last year. They look pretty good right now. Yeah,
and I agree. And a big point of this game is going to be stopping Lamar Jackson. Anything the Ravens do, it's going to start with Lamar. And Demario Davis talked about what he brings to that team.
He presents every type of challenge that you can imagine. Smart, savvy, creative, can extend plays, dynamic throwing ability, excellent leadership. The way he runs the ball is just an extra quality of all the many great things that he do. Has been one of the top players in our league for a long time, dominant player. And so you definitely have to be prepared in every different way that he can hurt you.
We all know how talented Lamar Jackson is, and the Saints in years past have really struggled against dual-threat quarterbacks. In the first game, I remember the defense having problems against them was last year in Week 11 against the Eagles, where Jalen Hurts had 3 rushing scores. The Eagles almost ran for 250 yards. The Saints defense for the entire game just seemed gassed. Now fast forward to this season, Week 1, and everyone had high expectations of the Black and Gold run defense. But against Marcus Mariota and the Falcons, they ran for over 200 yards. The Saints did get a comeback win, but for most of that game, they struggled with the Falcons offense. Then 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, the Saints played a little bit better, but they still gave up over 130 rushing yards and had 40 points scored against them. There were a lot of wide open gaps and missed tackles, something that can happen when you're playing against arguably the best dual threat quarterback in the league, and Lamar Jackson. So the way the Saints have to stop Lamar Jackson is they're going to need to have a spy on him. Whether it be Pete Warner or Demario Davis, the Saints need somebody to always watch out for Lamar because he cannot run the football. If he gets going rushing the football, it's going to be a long day for that Saints defense. Matt, what is your biggest matchup you're looking out for on Monday night?
So, Corey, I'm going to flip sides of the ball and go back to the offense and go back to something you touched on earlier, and that's Alvin Kamara. So they seem to have figured that out a little bit as well. In the last 3 games for Kamara, how about 387 total yards from scrimmage, the 3 touchdowns last week, and it's in the passing game, which, again, you touched on. And, Corey, you and I both know we've seen enough Saints football in this offense. When they get the ball to the running back in the passing game, that's when it's really humming. Can they keep that going against this Ravens defense, which got a little bit of a boost in Roquan Smith? Second time now you've seen a player get traded ahead of the Saints game. It was Robbie Anderson with the Cardinals. That was a Thursday. He was targeted one time, not much. Roquan Smith was traded on a Tuesday. This game's on Monday. Might we see more of him?
And another point I want to bring up is this Ravens secondary just has been getting torched, it seemed like, for the past 2 years. Remember, Joe Burrow did it last year against the Ravens. The Dolphins had almost 500 total passing yards in week 2. I really think this is an opportunity for Andy Dalton to pick apart the Ravens secondary. I think this is going to be a big point of emphasis. Chris Olave should have a shot, and you also maybe can get Jarvis. Is Michael Thomas ever going to play for you again? But you can get some weapons there and really pick apart that Ravens secondary. Now for more keys to victory, let's check in with Florida Lee Reports' Chris Lunkin. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, Corey. Look, the big question this week will be, how will the Saints respond after a huge statement win? Is this sustainable or another fluke? Hopefully it's the former, so here are my keys to victory. First, play clean, disciplined football. Last week, I thought the Saints did just this, and we saw the results. Baltimore will be another quality opponent looking to capitalize on any and every mistake. So it'll be critical for the Saints to play mistake-free. Second, win the time of possession. Look, both these teams are excellent at running the football, and if the Saints want to control the clock, they'll have a good chance of controlling the game and keeping Lamar Jackson on the sideline. And finally, force Lamar to beat you through the air. Personally, I think Lamar is the most dynamic player in the NFL, and we obviously know what he can do with his legs. Both teams have had success, but teams have had success against him by forcing him to throw the ball from the pocket. Containing him will be the ultimate difference in this game. They do this, and I think they have a shot at beating the Ravens.
I absolutely agree. Matt, what are your score predictions?
So this is what I'll say about this game here, guys, is the Saints defense, they showed what they're capable of again against the Vegas Raiders. One of the bigger weaknesses right now that teams have been able to exploit with all the injuries is the Saints secondary. You mentioned it there, Chris, force Lamar to beat you through the air. They don't really have the weapons on the outside maybe to take advantage of a injured Saints secondary, although Alontae Taylor's been playing pretty well. I like the Saints front against the Ravens running game. I'll take New Orleans. Prime time in the Dome, 27-24.
Get back to that domination?
Yeah.
All right, Chris, who do you got?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me is just consistency. And like this entire Saints season, we've seen anything but. We look at Atlanta, they beat Atlanta, then they lose 3 straight. Then they beat the Seattle Seahawks, lose 2 more. So how will they come out after a big win? I don't see them winning this one. I have Lamar actually torturing them. I have the Saints defense completely relapsing. And I got 31-24 Ravens.
Maybe it's the Pelicans put me in a bad mood.
Oh.
But, let's
not talk about
it's
that.
Just, I really think they're going to struggle against Lamar. And like you said, Lamar is one of the best playmakers in all of football. I think him and Josh Allen are the 2 best in football. I think the Saints, sadly, are going to lose this one on a last-second field goal by Justin Tucker. I got the Ravens winning 34-31. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week for the Black and Gold Report. I'm Corey Rholdon with Chris Lunkin and Matt Musso. Thanks for joining us.